Welcome students to the Assessment Theory module. My name is Raisa Mohammed Raycliffe and I'll be your facilitator over the next couple of months. As we go through the short video that just basically outlines what assessment theory is about, please make note of the important points such as objectives and definitions that you may need as you progress through this course. So there are 8 units in this module. You only see them numbered 1 to 7, but I'm adding in the introductory unit with which we start. The introductory unit will really ease you into the module and give you an outline of what assessment theory is and exactly how we understand it within the context of education. We'll then look at the introduction to assessment, and that includes theories on assessment, which is extremely important for you to understand as it will underpin all the work we do going forward. We'll also look at the approaches to assessment, and then we'll move on to Unit 2, which is the types of assessment. So we'll understand the difference between assessment for learning and assessment of learning, and then we'll move to the policy documents. So there are a number of policy documents that we need to take into consideration within this module, and we'll work through them together by a series of videos as well as the assessments that then follow. We'll move on to Unit 4, which is assessment in relation to teaching and learning. Thereafter, we'll look at assessment results, and then fair and unbiased assessment of the learner's abilities, and lastly, we'll look at self-assessment. So we'll go through these units, obviously in more detail as the module progresses. But for now, just look at the overview, understand the process of this module, and understand where exactly we are, and also write down some ideas of what you'd like to learn within the unit. If you come to the unit and you find it isn't something that has been covered, it's good to identify and flag it as something that perhaps we can go back and work on. So I've identified some objectives for this course. You're welcome to add to them, and you're also welcome to have objectives for yourself. So the first objective I feel that it's very important is becoming a reflective practitioner. So what does this mean? This means that we as teachers or we as facilitators of learning are reflective on the work that we do. When, for example, we plan a lesson and we administer the lesson to our learners, thereafter we should look at what worked, what didn't work, how we can change, and if we are actually reaching our learners, if we are reaching the goals of our lessons. It's important for us to look at how we do things and if they're actually working, and be open enough to declare when they aren't working and find new ways, and speak to others, collaborate with others on how things could work better. Okay, we'll also look at things like the various types of assessments, understanding these, the policy documents, etc. So objectives are important because they give us a point to work towards, but of course as we go, these are not everything. As we go along, we can add to them as we see fit. So in learning something new, you always want to know what it means, and we want to know what the definition is. There are many definitions for assessment and of assessment, and I've provided 2, one from the University of Delaware and then the Department of Basic Education, the definition with which they work. This is an important one for us because obviously we work under the umbrella of the DOPE. So it's important for you to understand this assessment. But I also like you, as we go along, to create an assessment definition for yourself. Understand it for yourself because it will really make a greater impact if it's something that you've come up with. These are some interesting quotes on assessment that I feel can maybe give you that aha moment and help you to conceptualize the term, understand the term, and fit it into the other elements of learning that you've gone through thus far. Okay, so there's various elements of assessment that are quite important, and I've identified 6 here that we can begin our discussion with. And the first one is that assessment should be ongoing. It shouldn't be something that just suddenly happens at the end of a course and then you move on. Assessment should be something that happens from the beginning of your course right up until the end, and it should happen in the middle of your course as well. So this helps you to give an indication of where your learners are, and it also helps you to provide information about whether your teaching has been effective, whether there are any misconceptions that need to be dealt with, and if, for example, learners need to move faster, perhaps your assessment shows that learners, the work that you've been doing is something that learners are grasping quite easily, and that then should be an indication for you to move forward. We shouldn't just use assessments as tick boxes, but rather we should use them as tools to help us move along our lessons or slow down our lessons if needs be. It should also be a confidence builder. We shouldn't give our learners papers full of red marks with very disheartening information on there about how poor their performance was, but rather we should encourage them, use positive language and use encouraging language so students don't feel that they don't want to continue, but rather that learning is fun and it's a process, and rather than just not understanding information, rather talk about perhaps misconceptions that they may have or areas of growth. And this will really help to promote further learning, so your learner doesn't feel like, I don't want to try anymore. Every time I try, nothing good comes of it, but rather that they are on a journey and they are in the process of learning new elements, and mistakes are part of the process. So it needs to really, you really need to ensure that you're building the confidence of your learner rather than breaking it down. Assessment should also promote collaboration between you and your learners, between the learners, between each other, as well as with you and other teachers as well. You can do cross-subject assessments, and so for example, subjects like English and biology could join forces, if you will, and create an assessment that you can assess both biological information as well as English language use, for example. So collaboration is a very important tenet of assessment and of education in general. And then assessment should take learners' needs or barriers into consideration. So many learners might come into your classroom with learning challenges or learning barriers, and these could be things like ADHD, it could be visual challenges, auditory challenges, physical challenges. As an assessor, you should take into account the different needs of your students, and it extends beyond this as well. For example, some learners learn better kinesthetically, so they could, for example, build a model, or they could put together a poster. So if you as a teacher gives your students the opportunity to provide their learning or to provide information about their learning in an assessment method that best works for them, you then will enable your learner to show you what they learn, and also for you to gather information about how they best learn. So for example, if you have an assignment on the ocean, you could ask learners to present the information that they've learned in the unit or in the module, and you give them free rein to decide how they do it. Some learners will build a model, some will do an oral, some will write an essay, etc. So you will now learn a lot more about your learner had you just prescribed the same assessment method or the same assessment tool to every single learner. So it's something you have to become comfortable with, because obviously means you don't have control, and teachers do like control, but it is something that you will greatly benefit from, and so will your students. It will help to increase their confidence in their abilities as well. So we'll also be covering the various types of assessments. Some of these you may have heard of before and some of them are new, but they will help you to understand the various ways in which you can assess your learners, because doing the same thing over and over will be both boring for you as a teacher as well as your learners. So there's very interesting ways and very unique ways and very new ways in which we can assess our learners. Peer assessment, for example, is not used very often, but it is a great tool to encourage interaction in your class and for learners to feel empowered to give feedback to their fellow classmates. I would encourage you through this process to ask these questions. What is assessment? As you progress through the module, find out for yourself whether you are able to answer these questions. Things like, why do we assess? The intent of assessment, how we can assess, the purpose of assessment. So the purpose and the why is not the same, but we'll talk about that later within the module. Also, what should the outcome of assessment be? Do we have an outcome? Do we start with an outcome? Where does assessment take place? And how do we provide feedback? When we talk about assessment, we cannot forget Bloom's taxonomy. It's an important tenet of assessment. It helps us to structure the way we assess according to the level of which we want to assess our learners. So for example, if we want to do a very basic level, we talk about remembering. It's about recalling facts and basic concepts. And as our learners progress, we'll move further up the pyramid to a point where they're able to create and produce new original pieces of work. And obviously the language we use within these assessments are quite important, because it helps to focus the learner in terms of what they need to provide, what type of information and feedback they need to provide, and what the assessment is really looking at. For this module, you'll be assessed in various ways. We'll be using definition activities, creating workshops, quizzes, etc. I haven't named them all here, but these are some of them. And your summative assessment will be a video that you'll do at the end of the course, but you will receive the rubric quite shortly, and then you can start working on it as soon as possible. In terms of contact sessions, there are 3 for this module, or 3 physical contact sessions for this module. If you do want to set up a contact session with me on the Zoom or Skype platform, you're more than welcome to do so. Distance students who are unable to make the contact sessions, please don't feel like you're missing out. You are more than welcome to have some time for me, and we can go through exactly what we did at the contact sessions. I'll also provide the lesson plan for the contact session, which I'll upload to Moodle. Our contact sessions won't be in a lecture style, but rather more in a facilitated workshop style. We'll do lots of interaction and engagement. We'll work on what reflections mean, and we'll reflect on the process and your journey through the modules as well. We'll look at interesting icebreakers to use in the classroom, how to plan your lessons, and we'll ensure that we have the basic tenets like classroom preparation, the teachers present to greet students, and these are some of the things I'll be modeling as well. So I use many sources of information. I use the YouTube platform both to watch videos that inform the work that I provide for you, as well as to upload my videos onto YouTube as well, because the Moodle platform doesn't allow videos of that size. I also use lots of textbooks because it's important to keep focus on the work that has been done within a certain area and to read the books that's been written on that topic. Of course, websites, video tutorials, group discussions that we'll have in our contact sessions, as well as on the Moodle platform. And I use lots of journal articles. Journal articles are extremely important as they provide academic resources for the topics which we'll be discussing. So please feel free to include your own source of information that we can share with the class. And of course, provide your referencing when you do use these sources of information. I'll also provide my references, and if there's anything that you want to read up on or extend your learning on, you're welcome to use those references, and obviously it'll take you exactly to the resource. I look forward to this journey of assessment theory with you. I look forward to learning with you and from you and learning about your experiences. Please feel free to contact me should you have any challenges, should you have any questions, or if you feel that's areas that you're really struggling with, I'm here to help and support you through it. So good luck, and I look forward to our next couple of months together.